mute except for Matt, probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and don't
Thanks,
hit the
Bill.
wrong
Leave
button.
that up for me. I'll leave.
Yeah, I've done that before. I just want to welcome everybody back. I mean, we took some time off with the new year, and hopefully we're ready to get some work done. The committee, which would include Mike Benvenuto and Bill Hughes and Newell, the sheriff, and myself, and Sherry, most importantly, did a lot of work in putting this draft together for everybody to review and work on. I think it's a good product. It needs some more work, but I think a lot's been put into it. With that, I want to turn it over to Bill Hughes and Mike Benvenuto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you going to go first, Mike, or should I?
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. So happy New Year, everyone. We certainly hope that we have a prosperous 2021. As the chairman mentioned, what you will see is an outline today of a lot of the ideas that we took from you, the public, in the first panel, and also the elected officials that we heard in the second panel, and questions and comments that were submitted to us in writing. So people should know that your participation is actually being listened to, and we are taking it serious, and we hope to put together a product that will make Columbia County proud at the end of the day. These are working notes. This is not a final product by no means. We want to be clear about that. We just want to make sure that we codify things so people can see the direction that we're going in, and we hope at the end of the day, though, that we have something, again, that people can be proud of and satisfied with.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. I just want to specifically thank the sheriff's office, Sherry and Newell for getting this outline together. There's a lot of stuff to go through, and it's in accordance with the state resource guide that we originally got. So Newell went through there, tracked, and make sure the outline matched up with that. It's a working document, like Bill said. These aren't written on stone tablets, so we can change things. Hopefully the panel will come up with some good stuff tonight. You can, after tonight, still look it over, submit some stuff to Sherry in writing, including questions, statements, things you think that should be added, things that maybe shouldn't be there. So looking forward to, enhancing this outline and getting to our final goal.
Thanks, Mike. The sheriff is next. He was going to give us an update on a couple of initiatives that he's working on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and as everyone said, happy 2021. Stay safe and stay healthy. A couple things I wanted to touch on. As far as body cameras, our body cameras have arrived. We're still waiting. So the hardware is basically ahead of the software and the installation process. So we're going to be waiting on Axon's techs. We really aren't sure yet when they're going to be coming. Month, 2 months, give or take. We're in the line right now for them to come. But as I sit actually here in our training room, I'm looking at all the body cameras stacked up in the corner. So that's pretty exciting for us. And I just wanted to get that out to you. Number two, we've been working with Tistria, with Dan, and with Carl. Also briefing a couple other supervisors on a referral program. I'm very, very excited about this. A referral program for mental health and also for substance abuse with Twin County. So I don't know if we're able to show that form. Sherry,
I'm working on that right now.
So to give you a little background, back pre-COVID, I was working with Twin County on coming up with some type of a referral form, a referral process for if we have people, basically we go to a house for an overdose, we're able to get that information to Twin County and also hopefully get some help to those people. COVID hit, everything got shut down. And so now we cranked it back up with the help of people on this panel. And ultimately, we've come out with actually a better product because instead of just having Twin County, now we've also got mental health. We've worked with both those agencies with MIS, which is our tech people here at the in the county. So basically, at the end of the day, the deputies in the cars will be able to go on their in-car computers, click on a link. Once they click on the link, fill out a short form, and then send that to those agencies. They'll have that in their inboxes. We've already got that all set up. We've already tested all that. So we're basically ready to go. And who knows, maybe farther down the line, if we have an APS problem or a CPS problem or whatever, stuff like that could also be funneled quicker. I mean, CPS, we'd have to report to the state anyways. So just a little something. And are we able to get that on or no, Sherry?
Give me one more minute. I think you guys can share it a lot quicker than I can.
You would have to log off. I mean, we can absolutely crank it up. While we're getting that form up, then I can just explain the form quick to you. I've had a couple people ask too, if we had any deputies down in Washington, D.C. When that whole fiasco went down, and no, we did not. I can say, and I'm proud to say that we absolutely do have deputies in Washington, D.C. right now. A couple of my deputies have been activated. They are with the Guard, and they're actually going to have a pretty incredible seat for the inauguration tomorrow. They're basically stationed right at the bottom of the step. So I just wanted to get that out there and let everybody know. But I'm very proud of the people that are down there serving their country, and thank God for those men and women. So we brought up the mental health and substance abuse referral form. This is the link, and it's actually going to be in the cars. And as you can see, exactly what you're seeing is what the deputies are going to see. So say I have a mental health problem, and I want to go and I want to refer somebody to mental health. I got to put my cheaters on. So we get in here, and again, we've got some stuff that won't be on as far as I don't think the emails for the captain and whatnot will be on there. But you'll have your name, you'll have your date of birth, contact information, address, date of incident, incident number, the reason for a referral, and the deputy making the referral. These are all questions that we spoke about, our little tiny sub-panel, and we wanted to bring this here for you tonight to see. We're basically ready to kick this off. We could set a date for February 1st. We wanted input from the entire panel. We've had several meetings on this, and I'm really excited to do this. And then basically, again, on substance referral, if the deputy was in the car, they would just click on that. Basically the same questions, and then that would be fired to Twin County. And ultimately, getting those people the help that they would need and the referrals that they need, that's what we want at the end of the day. So these are exciting times. We're getting to these forms because of this panel, because of these discussions. And again, Dan and Carl and Tistria, thank you very, very much for all that you did in helping with this, because this wasn't just us. This was really a team effort. And at the end of the day, this whole police reform panel is a team effort, and it's everybody putting their information in and their thought process, and pull some good stuff out of it and roll with it. So do we have any questions as far as, yes, Supervisor?
Could I just add one or two things?
Fire away, you were part of it.
So we've had a lot of great meetings. I'm really excited. I do want to be clear that this is phase one. So this is like what we can do immediately with the staffing and the budget restrictions and everything that are in place. It's a great way initially to get these referrals going. We as a subgroup are going to continue meeting. We have another meeting next week to talk about potentially what phase 2 and phase 3 could look like. Ulster County, we talked about them doing this cahoots model. So Sheriff Bartlett reached out to their sheriff. I reached out to Pat Ryan, and they got almost $1 million grant. So phase 2 might involve using some of our grant writers to see if there's grant money available for a larger rollout. So this is step 1 that can be done immediately. It's a great first step, but we're going to continue meeting as a subgroup and then bringing it back to this panel, possibilities for a phase 2 or phase 3. It also can be utilized by any law enforcement. So if Hudson PD, Philmont PD, Chatham PD, this link could be shared with all of them. It would be sent to the same mental health department with Dan Almasi and the same, Greener Pathways with Carl Quinn. On their end, they receive the data immediately, and depending on the time of day, we'll be able to make contact with the person within 24 hours at most, to follow up and see what those needs are. So I think it's a great first step. I'm really excited to continue meeting more, and thanks to everyone for your hard work on it.
Dan, would you say something a little about it from your end?
While we're waiting for Dan to get on, as Trista just said, I have spoken to all the other PDs in the county, all the part-time PDs, and also the city of Hudson. I still have to speak to the chief a couple things. We're in our preliminary stages, but all the part-time PDs are on board with it. It's very easy to do, and it's helping people. And so I don't see a problem with all the other police departments jumping on board. I can't speak for the state police, and I see Dan just arrived. So I'll leave it to you.
Okay. Dan, can you unmute yourself? No. Okay. We'll leave it the way it is. Okay. Cool. Okay. There's a lot of information here that we've put together, and we really want to make good use of all of your time with what's happened here. So what we're going to propose is, as you see, Sherry's put up on the screen. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at some of this material in advance, and what we thought about doing is walking through each of the key themes. Just backing up for a moment, all the themes really came from all of what we heard from you and from the panelists, as Matt and Mike said. And we just figured, how do we organize these in a way that really made a decent flow, in terms of it. And each section was organized in like what's happening now, the current actions, next steps, what could be seen as immediate things with current resources that could happen now or are about to happen. Short-term strategies is what might we do in this next year and a half or so. And long-term strategies were longer term. And in most cases, long-term strategies were things that you don't have the resources booked for now, or you don't even know how you're going to pay for it or get access to it. But it's the right long-term aspirational direction. That's the way this is organized, right? So we thought we'd start right at the top here with your findings to date under transparency and walk through each section. And what I'd like to do is say, I'll talk transparency, reporting complaints. Does anybody have a comment or a suggestion that you don't feel is here, right? If something really is missing for you. There are a bunch of you, and we got a lot of this. So when in doubt, send us the notes later rather than speak to it. But if you think it's important to mentioning now, just please raise your hand and we'll call on you and we'll get that conversation going. The other, for the sake of the record, because this is being seen by others who are not here, if you could say your name and where you're from, well, I'll try and get it right. A lot of people have complained that I haven't called out everybody's full name for these things. So please say who you are and what your jurisdiction is before you speak, okay? Who'd like to speak first? Anybody have anything under reporting complaints here that you'd like to talk about?
Sheriff Bartlett has his hand up.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Just so everybody knows, now we're into the transparency, and as far as reporting complaints and so on and so forth, we have been reaching out to other agencies. Don't reinvent the wheel, basically. And we've been looking at Albany PDs. I reached out to Schenectady PD today, actually, just to see what they're doing and how they're doing it. We've talked about maybe having an online complaint form, because I know some people had discussed and showed concerns that they were afraid to come to the office. So maybe an online complaint form, maybe have complaint forms in the town halls or different organizations where we could have complaint forms, so people did not feel afraid to file that. So just so you know, we've been doing on our end too. Again, the committee's been working a lot, but on the backside of that also, we've been touching base, touch base with also Saratoga County and Livingston County today to speak with those sheriffs. So it's going along pretty well.
Okay, great. Anybody have something they want to say, or if not, let's do.
Newell, this is
yes.
Dan. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, apologies for that. We had some new laptops issued and they're wonderful. They're absolutely fantastic, but for some reason it wasn't allowing me to unmute, so I'll have to figure that out some other time. So I'm coming to you from my phone. I just wanted to entertain any questions that people may have from the mental health end of things. I think that's the last thing you asked me. Yeah. And while people are thinking of those questions, what I'd like to say is that I just think this is fantastic, because in addition to what Sheriff Bartlett said and Tistria, and I don't know if Carl spoke, the information that gets filled out on the form that was shown to everybody, that populates a spreadsheet. And forgive me if this was said already, but the beauty of that is that on our end at mental health and on the Greener Pathways end, the person making the outreach call will see that spreadsheet, and they can customize that spreadsheet to add their own columns and rows so that additional data can be developed on the outreach, such as, you know, when the outreach was made, was it successful? Was a voicemail left? Does it need additional follow-up? Did it manifest in an appointment being scheduled with that person? And then we'll have that data to use accordingly. So that's a silver lining to this very basic first step to this referral process.
Thanks, Dan. Carl, did you want to add anything to that, or are we ready to move on? Yeah.
No, I think it's been covered. I'm excited that we're at this point. I'm excited that for our county that we'll have this tool to be able to serve the people that we work with, and I'm glad to be part of this group. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Excuse me, could I ask Dan to just tilt his computer down? All we can see is his chin. Thank
How's
you.
that?
That's great, Dan. Thanks.
Hey,
Just
Newell,
for-
may I-
Yes.
Yeah, so I actually have a ton of notes, so I will email them out to everybody. I actually took this document and I put in blue where I think we should add things in. But one thing that I did want to talk about, I think at the very top, and I realize this is a draft, we should have some statement along the lines of, we acknowledge that rates of arrest and sentencing are disproportionately punitive towards Black residents, and we're committed to identifying causes and solutions, and then go into what we're going to do about it. And it's all on the document that I'll email out. And I do think that the reporting and complaints should state that it's for both the sheriff's office and the jail.
Yes,
Okay.
great points.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah, as far as the sheriff's office has 5 divisions, so it's for all the divisions technically. You get law enforcement, corrections, civil, court security, and ultimately emergency management.
Awesome. Thank you.
okay.
I'd like to chime in here. Jean Metler from Copac. So I want to back up Tistria on what she said, in that if we're really talking about findings, I think that it would be good to have a statement in the beginning. And, you know, I think the language is really important and very difficult, but it should at least point to the fact that we acknowledge the disparity in arrests, because if you go by the DCJS data, which is available to all of us, and it's been cited here, it does show, you know, a lot of disparity in terms of when you compare the number of Black people in the community compared to the number who are arrested, and then when you get to the number that go to prison, it's even more striking. So I think, I mean, we don't have to talk about it now, but there should be some statement right up front, which I think would acknowledge that there's an issue. And I think that would go a long way towards the acceptance of whatever we say next. The second thing I was going to say, I know that further in this document, you're talking about a committee to receive complaints. And that's, I think, a great idea. And again, would take a lot of conversation to figure out what the committee should look like. But I wonder whether that shouldn't be included also in this reporting and complaint section. That because the problem probably is not just that people don't want to come into the sheriff's office or they might feel better about going online, but maybe they would also like to address the complaint to an entity other than the entity that they're complaining about. Just an idea.
Jean, could you, when you see Vestria's write-up, would you connect with her to see if it needs amplification based on what you just said?
Sure. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything, can we get a thumbs up if we're ready to move on to crime stats and access?
I have one. I have my hand raised too.
I'm sorry.
Sarah Sterling from Hudson. I'm concerned, yeah, maybe we'll have the citizens complaint, but somebody who's really scared, they don't want their name anywhere. They don't want to fill out a complaint form. We need to have like a safe harbor place where someone can go anonymously and get some support, either from supervisors or an official or something, because the fear of retribution is real.
Yeah. So Supervisor Sterling and Supervisor Mettler, you guys made some great points, and we talked extensively about that. So when we put up the transparency, and we fully expect transparency to speak more than just filing complaints. But that was what we were just thinking of at the time from the information that we were receiving. But as far as someone being able to file a complaint and to whom they file that complaint, you would see, and Supervisor Mettler mentioned to that, you would see further on down in the document where we kind of get into that specifically, like filing a complaint here and being able to be anonymous. So we do kind of get there.
When we get to 5B, that's where we'll be talking, right?
Yep.
Okay. We ready to move on? Thumbs up if we can move on to crime stats. Can we see? Oh no, I'm sorry, Abdus.
I like to establish independent community oversight review committee. So when somebody get a complaint or somebody do that, we create a committee so they can review the committee how happened, his complaint is right or wrong, and
Yeah.
it will be
Supervisor Mia, that's what we were discussing, and that's going to be down at number 5. So
okay.
We'll get there, then you can comment.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're good. Let's move on to crime stats and access to data. We need to slide the screen up for those of us looking at it on the screen. Go. Any comments or questions on this section? Clear? Okay. Mike?
I just wanted to check with the sheriff because I know when I was at probation, we would have local stats right up to date, and you were supposed to submit them to the state, and the state stats that were listed publicly were usually like 2 years behind. So, are they up to date on the DCJS website or?
Yeah, we submit monthly UCRs and IVRs in reference to all the cases that we have here as far as arrests and whatnot. The state's the one that's really backlogged big time.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so the development of the local database, something we can use, perhaps, have it publicly accessible. That would be important because otherwise things they lag. Okay.
And that's what we were talking about in next steps, right? That we start to, got it. Okay, let's go on to public relations person. Mike, if you're done with your hand up, could you put it down or I'm going to keep calling on you. Okay. Public relations person. Comments, questions? All good?
I'd love to have a PR person. It all comes down to money. I think it would be awesome to get some type of a person here that is actually trained. I'm not saying to the lieutenant or to the captain, hey, run with this, or we have to do social media. So it's literally one of us three doing it. I'd love to have a person that's been their job, their career. I can think of a couple right off the top of my head that would be excellent here, but it's just it's position and it's money and so on and so forth.
I have a question on that, that maybe other people know. I don't know that PR for the sheriff's office would be a full-time position. Could, we're also talking about, Department of Health and these other departments. Could we potentially, as a board of supervisors, talk about a full-time PR person that works for the county? So whatever is needed for Sheriff Bartlett, they connect with him. Whatever's needed for the Department of Health, they connect with them. Whatever's needed from the board of supervisors. So instead of having a PR person for the sheriff and a PR person for this department, just have a full-time position that's PR for the county that would be able to fill this role.
That's a discussion we can have. I think it's, we'd have to weigh it out and we'd have to, look at our budgetary needs. But I think at some point, I'm not saying this year, but maybe down the road, that's something that could occur.
Let's move on to body cameras.
Yeah, I think, again, we absolutely welcome input as far as on the body cams for the policy. The policy that we have right now for our in-car cameras is through our BMP up out of the state, Bureau of Municipal Police. And it's a well-tested and respected policy that's put out by the state. But I welcome anybody's input on that. I'm going to be asking for input on that before we put these cameras out, and to make sure everybody's good with it. And again, just like tonight, we're getting ideas, and maybe we'll get another good idea out of it.
Okay, Ryan, remind people where you're from and stuff.
Yes, hi, good evening. I'm Ryan Carty. I'm the Assistant District Attorney. And just one thing that I would just like to point out with respect to body cameras is that when the sheriff's office adds body cameras, there will be the unconsidered consequence that has an effect on the district attorney's office as well as your public defender's office. And it's a storage issue, which will cost money. Currently, right now in Columbia County, Hudson Police Department has body cameras. Soon, the state police will have body cameras as well as the sheriff's office. So that's just lots and lots of video that needs to be stored. And it just is very expensive to store that. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, as that is going to be an unintended consequence as a result of adding all of this extra data.
Sheriff, as part of the package that we're paying for, storage is included in that?
For us, it's unlimited.
Okay.
As far as Ryan, if you wanted to download them and whatnot, then you could be running into server issues and so on and so forth. But for the Axon system that was purchased by the county, that's unlimited cloud storage for the police agency, which you would have access to, Ryan.
Right. I'm more so saying that it would require the DA's office to provide all of the body camera to all the defense attorneys. And in order to do that, it just is a lot of storage that needs to be undertaken. That's all.
Okay. Let's, we good? Let's move on to the next one.
I just had a quick comment on body cameras, and I can put it in writing because it's kind of long, but we'll also be presenting some of our police reforms this Friday at 6 p.m. And one of the main presentations is additions to our body camera policy.
Thanks, Mayor. Okay. Let's move on to training. And we broke this down into different kinds of training. So if your comments are generic about training in general, let's hear those first before we get into specifics. Anything generally about training before we get into each one? Okay. Okay, let's talk about, go ahead, Gene. Let's talk about cultural sensitivity and bias training. What changes or questions do you have about what's here?
One of my notes is to actually add in the words cultural sensitivity training because I didn't read that specifically stated, and also community policing training or procedures. I know you talk about community policing later, but I think in the training there should be the specific wording of community policing training and cultural sensitivity training.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Aldous.
Abdus, yes. I like to say cultural sensitivity, like incident happened a couple of months ago, like one Muslim woman, oh, you have a bomb. That is a cultural activity attack. I think so. No police officers and no cannot comment like that. So this is my question. So make sure whoever think about it, they need a training for cultural sensitivity bias training. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor Mayor. We would hope that, and I think the sheriff concurs with this, that when you're getting into cultural and biases and sensitivity training, that you're addressing all the ethnic groups and issues that would concern everyone within the community. So hopefully that would be covered.
I agree with that, Bill.
Let's move down to mental health.
Jean has her hand up, Newell.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Jean.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there has to be some assessment, and I'm not even sure how that would be done. But then as I was reading further, I see that you're saying establish system to measure results. So that's why I put my hand back down again. Thank you.
Okay. Testria.
Sorry, I just wanted to say on both this and the cultural sensitivity bias, I love the idea for short-term strategy when we maybe don't have a ton of funding to go to community members and leaders and organizations. We have a lot of active organizations in Columbia County that focus on these types of things. So I love that you guys put that idea right in there, that we utilize the tools that we already have here in the county. So great work.
Okay. Let's go to persons with disabilities. Testria, when you get a chance, put your hand down if you're done. Okay. Sheriff, have you heard of this? You were talking about this one time. Have you heard of this going on in other places?
What's that, Noel?
The persons, training for persons with disabilities, other sheriff's departments that are.
Yeah, I actually did this back a little while ago.
Yeah.
Members with disabilities, and it's very important to me to make sure we get this training out there, because you don't know what you're going to deal with if you come up to somebody, TBI, autism, whatever that you come across. So it's very important that we get our police officers trained to be able to see when they go to a call like that and how to deal with the person, because you could escalate it. You could very well de-escalate it just by knowing how to speak to people. And so there's this one course, persons with disability training course that I want to make mandatory. There's no, I want to, I'm going to make mandatory here at the sheriff's office. And I'm going to be president for the state sheriff's association this year. I would like to make it mandatory across the state. That's going to be one thing that I'm going to ask for when I get in. I should have been sworn in today, actually, but because of COVID, it was put back on hold a little bit. But it's very important to me that we get out there. There's been many times I've dealt with somebody with a disability when I was a young deputy on the street. And I always say to the people, to the police officers, and I'm teaching down at Zone 14 at the local police academy, one of your best tools that you have is talking. Whether it's de-escalation, whether it's dealing with somebody with a disability, it's learning how to talk to people.
Sarah Sterling, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. One suggestion was given to me by a friend that I don't think many people know how many group homes we have in the county. And one way for training would be for a sheriff's deputy or something to go visit a group home, because they're not out in public all the time. But for them to experience a police officer and what they're like, aside from what they might see on TV, would be great for both people, I think. Thanks.
Thanks. David
Yeah,
Harris.
I'd be agreeable with that. We go down to Camp Hill every now and then and see all the people down there, and it's a wonderful facility, absolutely gorgeous. But that's near and dear to my heart. So whatever we can do, I would absolutely be up for that.
David Harrison.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that in 2019, with the sheriff approval, emergency management did sponsor a 2-day training by Niagara University. It focused on emergency preparedness, both in the private and public sector. It was well attended. They actually have a grant, so the training is free. The training for law enforcement would be different, a bit different, as they say, and but you may want to use them also as a resource to come up with an overall training that would be good for the police officer, sheriff. But they were very good. Two of their professors actually came. We held it at the college, and it was a very good training.
Thanks, David. Abdus? You're on mute, I guess.
I like to thank you. The short-term strategy, it should be long-term strategy, because I'm a father of autistic kids. I have a big son, it's autism. He living in the Columbia County, one of the group home. So it is come from my heart. I want to see that it's happened to county. This is my big son, and I'm a father. So I want to see you guys do that. But thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Newell, I think he misunderstood what the short-term strategy was. Did you understand that?
No, I understand that.
Okay. So you know that this is it's actually going to keep going. It's the short term means that we can act on it shorter, right now than later on. You've got that up. Okay.
That's fine. I just I want to see that it's happened. That is my as a father, I want to see that.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to de-escalation of force training. Testria, you.
So I saw there was a blank in short-term strategies, so I thought of a few things. This does go along with another section of community policing, but when we're talking about community policing, one of the idea is like the demilitarization of police. And so really focusing on less military equipment, less SWAT-style raids, banning or limiting no-knock warrants. We talked at one of the panels, I think one of the community members talked about, even though the police may be there for a good reason and to keep people safe, that child whose parents are getting arrested doesn't know that. So as much as we can be non-militarized, and I think those are a few steps that we could take pretty immediately, just having those focuses. And again, all my stuff is written down, so I will send it out afterwards. You don't have to take notes.
Okay. Anything else on this one? We're good. Okay. Let's go to other. Just we left an open, a wild card here in case there was something you really felt we were missing in this area, because training seemed to come up quite a bit. When you looked at that list, was there another training we should be mentioning in this document that we haven't covered yet?
I have one.
Okay.
I would add a section for like educational programs, for instance, the DARE program. So the same kind of thing we're doing with our training as far as reviewing it, looking at the outcomes and seeing, is it successful? Can we improve? I think Beth Schuster is, yeah. I would add an educational program such as DARE program and do the same kind of processes as we're doing with the other types of trainings.
And have you written that up?
I have. At the very end, I put a bunch of other things and I didn't quite know where they fit. I do think this might fit there, and I'll make a note of that.
Okay. Very good.
Hi, this is Beth Schuster. The raise my hand thing doesn't seem to be working. So I'm butting in. Anyway, I just wanted to say something. A couple sections back, you had a thing on, mental health. I would love to see a specific section on substance abuse. And I'd also love to see that under training. I know a lot of people with substance abuse also have mental health disorders, but all don't. And they are specifically different issues to deal with, especially when you are coming across someone for the first time and they may be impaired by something. I think it's kind of important to get training on, what the different substances are and how they may make people act and how to de-escalate.
So Beth, do you know of a specific training that would target that, or is that something you do in your agency?
There's any number of people in my agency who could provide that kind of training. Sure.
Okay, great.
And if I could just add, the one particular one that comes to mind is science of addiction and recovery.
Yes.
And we do have people in both in Columbia and Greene County who train on that particular curriculum.
So what I'm hearing we want to add is another training section in here specifically for that, right?
Yeah, another training section. Yeah. And then further back, there was also a whole section just on mental health and other disabilities, and it didn't mention substance use disorder. So if we could just stick that in someplace, I'd feel great.
And Beth, this is Dan. Help me remember the name of the state trooper, or anyone else on the call that might remember the state trooper that I believe gave a presentation to either the Community Services Board or another group that gathered about recognizing different substances, both prescribed and unprescribed.
That was in Greene County. I could get his name. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but okay. Yeah, he was excellent.
Was that the hidden in plain sight?
No.
I want to say, was it Doug Paquette? Does that ring a bell?
Yes, that's it. You have a younger mind.
But it sounds like it's significant enough. If we were writing this as a separate document, because these will be paragraphing tools, right?
Right.
Forward, that to treat it as the same way we have cultural sensitivity and mental health and people with disabilities, to create substance abuse as one of those, not as
yes.
Okay, that's
I mean, it's certainly a big enough problem in our county, as I think everybody would agree. So sure. we need to address it.
Well, we need to add that one in. Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Anything else under other that we missed that you think needs to stand out or do anything under training? I know the sheriff had like 150 other things, but we chose not to put those all in here. That's okay. That was meant to be funny. Anyway, let's go on to number 3, mental health substance abuse referral, which we've been talking about. So is there more to talk about here that we have not covered already? Is there a way to get that all on the screen, Sherry? I think we're missing like the very bottom on long-term strategies here. There we go. Okay. Oops. There we go. All right, good. Any comments or questions about any of this? Testria.
If I could just clarify, so under long-term strategies for process, procedures, protocol, number 2, I did have someone on the police reform panel that contacted me because they knew I had been working with Sheriff Bartlett and Dan and Carl that said, well, what about the potential for some sort of, cahoots program where the calls go directly to mental health? That is what number 2 is talking about, possibly deploy mental health professionals to dispatch or field to assess. So we're not there yet, the funding and other things, but that's what that's addressing, is that we're gonna look at all of that.
Yes. Okay. Good. Let us move on to standards.
Can I jump in, Newell?
Sure.
Got something from the New York State Sheriff's Association today for the governor's budget. And basically this afternoon, governor made available a briefing and booklet detailing policies and initiatives, which will include the following things. One of the things in there, and I'll read it verbatim, is require accreditation of all police departments. This legislation will require all law enforcement agencies to become accredited in order to enhance the effectiveness and professionalism of policing statewide. The accreditation program will improve their organization, their training, operational standards based on the best field practices. We're already there. So I thought that was kind of ironic that we were having this tonight. And I was like, oh my goodness, we already do this. And this is coming from the governor. So it's, you can see how important the accreditation is. And again, we are accredited in every single division that we can be.
To Mike's frequent point, does it include the state police?
I can't speak for the state police.
I know you can't. Okay. Sarah.
What about the smaller Philmont and Stockport and Greenport? Do they have to be accredited too?
If the governor mandates that, yes. It's tough for small PDs. This is a heavy lift. Doing accreditation is not just a wave of the wand and say, hey, you're accredited. I know, because I was the accreditation manager for the law enforcement division. It is not easy. There is a lot of work that goes into it. So whether they're going to mandate just full-time, whether they're going to mandate little part-time PDs with 1 or 2 people, I can't answer that. That's going to be on the governor's end.
Okay. Anything else on standards? Okay. If not, let's, Mike, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so standards and training, just off the top of my head. I mean, a lot of that's going to be affected by what the state does moving forward and how DCJS updates what they currently have and expands what they currently have. And if they're calling for accreditation of every law enforcement agency in the state, they're going to be having some major updates at the state, because that's a heavy lift right there. That's a lot of law enforcement agencies. I think it's currently they do like 120 20 something, and that's 300, 400 agencies are talking about. So, but I know they are working on updating their standards and their training for accredited agencies. So we can look forward to that.
And that's an ongoing process. As Mike just said, it's never just, oh yeah, you're accredited and you go through your 5-year cycle and you got to do it all again. It's always changing. It's an ever-changing evolution, and you're always having to change policies or do different things as far as when it comes back in from the state. Because the minute something is tweaked, it's sent to us, we tweak it in our policies. So it's always it's a living document. It's never stale at all.
Great. Okay, let's move on to some folks' favorite topic, hiring. Is there any way to get this so that we can see it all on one screen? I don't know.
A
And
question,
real quick, the numbers are 160 to 514. There's 160 law enforcement agencies currently are accredited out of 514 agencies in the state.
Okay. Hiring and diversity recruitment. This is what we've been hearing from lots of folks. And Bill, you want to talk about this at all, or is it all here?
I think it's self-explanatory. It could be expanded as we said, but so it's a fluid document, and we'll wait to see for other comments to come in either through this format or questions and comments that come in from the public.
Any comments on anything?
I have one thing. We did meet, myself, 4 other sheriffs, and New York State Civil Service met last week in reference to this as far as diversity within all of our agencies. We all feel and we all agree that we do need to be more diverse. With that being said, we had a very interesting discussion with several high-ranking people from the state, and a lot of it is on civil service, and we stress that. And it even goes farther than just hiring. Think about, we have hiring, but then we also have promotional situation. And if I have a small number of minorities, females, etc., then that small number, of course, I also want to get promoted at some point. So we had a very good discussion. This is important to all the sheriffs across the state. Again, there was the president, Jeff Murphy from Washington, I'm first vice, and a couple of the sheriffs that they were spread geographically. It was a good discussion, but we advise them some stuff's got to change in the civil service end of things on the state if we want and need more diversity.
Okay. Gene. Gene Medler.
I just want to respond to what the sheriff just said, which I thought was really important when he expressed his acknowledgement that there is a problem and that we do need to seek diversity. I think that kind of statement just goes a long way, Sheriff. People hear that, and that means a lot to people, I think. So thank you.
Great. Anything else, Sarah?
yeah, I'm wondering about, does the Zone 14 training come into this, in this section? Because of the program that Bill Hughes had for a while, and I'm wondering, I thought you had to take the civil service test first before you could do that, but then apparently you can take that training if you pay for it yourself before you take the civil service test. You know, maybe we could start a scholarship fund. Is that possible? Is that helpful to have people take the Zone 14 training?
It would be helpful to have people taking the Zone 14 before civil service, but not everyone is able to do that because of the cost. So if you had a scholarship program, but probably one of the more important things or aspects to it when we're talking about the civil service and getting people ready for that is why we were putting the emphasis on the county partnering with nonprofit organizations who would want to take up the task of working with people in our minority communities about getting career ready. And career ready would include um, being able to take the civil service test, understanding what it takes to participate in a career in law enforcement. It's not an easy career, and it takes a great deal. So a lot of people who are looking to get in law enforcement need to start years early, even before they take the civil service test. So if we were able to partner with nonprofit organizations, prepare some of these applicant or these potential candidates, that is the way to go.
Sheriff Bartlett?
I'm going to be a gentleman and I'm going to, Jeannie, your hands up. Okay. So zone 14. So for the people, again, we'll do a quick, the thing of what zone 14 is, it's a local law enforcement academy that we have here at the college. We even brought up about testing and testing, training and education, not testing, training and education with state civil service. So then that way, maybe we can get people into law enforcement by getting them into zone 14, and then they would be trained. I'm gonna throw it out there. You still don't want the good old boy network where you're gonna pick who you want to pick. And so that's what civil service still has to have that teeth. I would love to see more people go to zone 14. When I went to zone 14, I probably had 30 people in my class. Now we're looking at 7, 8, because people don't want to be cops with what's going on, everything in the country. It's tough because it's easier to have somebody that's certified. Like right now, I'm thinking about maybe running a course because I'm going to have positions coming up. But yeah, anything we can do to try and get some of these young men and women into the academy. One of the things that would have to be done is that they would have to be sponsored. We don't send anybody to the police academy. So they would have to be sponsored by one of the local police departments or the sheriff's office. And when I talk zone 14, it's not just Columbia County. We've got people from Greene, we've got people from Ulster, we've got people that came down from Washington. So when I say our numbers have shrunk from 30 down to 9 or 8, think about what a big geographical location I just talked about. And we're coming down to, we can barely even get these police officers to come in.
Next, Dan, then Beth, then Vernon.
Thanks, Newell. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. So along the lines of what Sheriff Bartlett just said, I think it's important for the audience to understand that when it comes to the issue of hiring in civil service, a lot of the issues that we're facing with regard to civil service and hiring for law enforcement carry over into our other departments. So if we were to tackle an attempt at modifying civil service or appealing to civil service to modify some of the longstanding rules that were put into place at one point, I think it could have a benefit that would resonate beyond the sheriff's department, for example. There are many other departments, including my own, that have difficulty with recruiting. There is a graying of the workforce that's happening in this area. No offense to any of you that are a bit older, but it's getting harder and harder to find younger individuals who want to enter the county workforce, and it's becoming difficult. So it sounds like the sheriff is experiencing that. We've certainly experienced it. So this is something that we'll have to face at some point.
Okay, Beth.
So I don't know a whole lot about, the zone 14 training, but I have a couple questions, and let's leave civil service aside for a minute. One is there an age requirement? can you, is it a possibility to start PR stuff with high school seniors in high school who may consider this, but don't think that they have any opportunity or way to do this, or even, community college kids or something. I mean, some kids might want to do it, and it might actually help them out if they're in the junior or senior year in high school, if they think that there's a way that they can be supported to move forward. So anyway, those are my questions.
So to answer your questions, Beth, to be a certified police officer, it's 21 years old when you graduate. The partnering as far as getting the word out to the high school, we've gone out and done career days at the different schools, and we sit and talk to the kids and tell them about our job. And, we talk about Zone 14. I've actually got Lieutenant Rivero. We work very close with Bill DeLuca. He was over in Catskill for many years, and now he's one of the instructors over here at Columbia Green. He's a great resource. And we always go down to the law enforcement class and speak to them and talk to them also about the academy. So we do get it out. It's just, again, it's tough right now with today's environment.
So to
No,
address,
I totally get it. Thank you.
to address your other point though, Beth, about reaching the kids when they're 18, 19, that was what the Letty Department of Law Enforcement Diversity Initiative was all about. But what I would love to see is us even reach some of the kids even younger, maybe when they're freshmen in high school, because what they don't understand, and the sheriff can confirm this, some of the things that they may do as a kid will disqualify them as an adult to become it and get in law enforcement. For example, state police, you're not allowed to have a tattoo below your sleeve, or if you have some kind of incident where it's dealing with illicit drugs or alcohol or domestic violence, all of these kind of things will come into play on top of education and physical standards. So we want to make sure we get to them as young as possible, and to show them the courses and the things they need to do to become successful.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that's a great idea if we can.
Thanks. Vernon Doyle and then Mayor Johnson.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you. I just kind of want to piggyback what the sheriff was saying in regards to training with law enforcement. But one of the things I want to add is that something that we did here in the village of Philmont for many years is I worked closely with Greg Mosley with the whole Operation Unite, and it was a great resource because it tapped into the younger generation that we didn't know that want to be law enforcement, but it gave them the opportunity. Inner city, and I'll be honest, a lot of the youth that came to the village of Philmont were out of the city of Hudson. I also networked with a local store owner down there who would talk to all the kids. He works in the jail now. He's family of law enforcement. He would send referrals. But the key thing with what Greg did is they brought the kids in. We were able to talk to them. We would get invited down. We'd go to these meetings, but they also coached and developed them with test taking, basically tutorials. So it gave them the opportunity to work on that. And it was the ones that were interested. And they also did have some type of a scholarship because they funded them to go to the academy. So we kind of prepped them. We got them here to the village. They passed their physical fitness test, the background and everything else. And we would get them into the academy. And then that's where, it becomes responsibility of the individual that's in the academy, of course. So I think that if we're going to look for some kind of a program, he may be an asset to talk to that could help build something a lot faster if we're looking for something with diversity, because he already had something in play.
Thanks, Vernon. Mayor Johnson?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's information anywhere, because I did talk to a few young men who are in their 20s who actually are interested in the sheriff's office, but I couldn't find any direct information on how they can get more information.
Okay.
What information were they looking for? Come on.
Like requirements, where they can, apply for the academy, or, just anything.
So any type of requirements as far as civil service, they would have to go through the civil service site. As far as zone 14, give me a shout if you got anybody that might be interested in going. Right now, zone 14 shut down because of COVID and because it's at the college. So, but I'd be more than glad to sit down with any of these young men and women that you do have. And if they were interested, then maybe we could sit and talk about it and we could let them know what it's all about. So please, I'd love to have that discussion with you.
Great.
Great. Sounds great.
Sarah, do you still have your hand up, or is that just left over from before? No. Okay, Jean Metler.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that what that exchange we just heard is an interesting one, because I was just looking at the sheriff's website, and maybe there could be something on the sheriff's website which says, would you like to become a police officer? And then you'd click on that, and then it would take you to these other links so that a kid would have an easy way to get information.
Thanks. Okay.
Yeah, Supervisor Metler, that was one of the ideas we had, is actually what the mayor has asked. There should be a centralized location saying this is what is required. This is the minimum, and this is how you go about doing that. So that is clearly something that we heard in the past, and we would like to address.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Thank you.
And kind of to Dan's point, maybe it's even bigger than just the police department, for the whole county in some kind of way. Is there anything else? We have another listing under hiring in case there was another category we missed. Does anybody have something you think we need to include there? If not, we can delete that for our future exploration and move right on. Okay, let's go to community relations. And this had a number of things in it. It's got community policing, complaint process, senior checks, were the three we came up with from all the comments that came in. Let's start with community policing. Jean, is your hand up for this one or from last time? Okay.
I had one that's in my other section at the end that might fit in here, because this does talk about school resource deputies. So I would suggest, and this might go under training, it might go under here, but the same process again that we're talking about for training and for the DARE program, just an overview of the position of school resource officer, the cost, the benefit, like, is it working? Could it work better? Just including that in the conversation of, is it the best way that we can provide the services that students need, or could it be modified in some way? So I don't know if we add that here under school resource deputies, overview of effectiveness, or if we put that in the training section, but I think it should be addressed.
I mean, that's an interesting point when you're writing a public document like this. Sometimes you can say it in more than one place. It doesn't necessarily to be mutually exclusive. As long as there's some referencing. And this was really the way we designed this. It was so that when we get to write this actual plan, we really got the basics for writing it. So it could appear in more than one place. I don't think that's a problem unless someone sees it differently.
Or a cross-reference. For more information, see section 5B.
Yeah, exactly. Abdus? You're on mute still, I guess. Yeah.
I have a couple of notes, and it's community relation. I don't know which section is filled up. So I like to discuss anything. Like the number one, we are ultimately goal was a relation between community and police. This police reform, one of the goal. So when one of the goal of success, we have to be some kind of thing, some kind of rules, regulation, you have to be recognized. Like I told you that any police officer cannot be involved immigration process. They have to, they're not, they should end it. They are not bound to involve the immigration process or immigration laws. So this is federal. Why our police officer, why our sheriff involved that? That's why you have a lot of time is a community and police gap. Another was a problem was a lot of time did not understand that community language access program throughout the all county ensure every community member has equal access. That's two things. Another thing I like to say that we should provide it community sufficient and community-based voluntary drug treatment and harm the reduction services instead the policing drug use. We should not. That's a community relation too. Also, we have some provided healthcare, education, all people in the jail, uh, that upon their release, they can re-enter the community. That's the community relation too. So this is very important. So you coming the immigration, immigrant, diversity this country. So you involve the community immigration law, automatically you have a fraction between police and that community. So we have to stop this kind of things. That is my question. So think about it. I think so it's not a discuss it over here. I think so this you should we should discuss it and we should implement.
Could you put some of that core ideas into writing so that?
Yeah, already that is already Sherry has it.
All right.
So,
Okay.
but just to address a couple of those notes. So on the the exit treatments of people that are currently incarcerated, Supervisor Mia, we usually deal with that through the reentry program. And I know the funding has gotten cut because of COVID and budget issues. Hopefully that funding is returned. But Sheriff, I don't know if you heard some of the points that Supervisor brought up about one, having the sheriff's department involved in any immigration or ICE issues, and also about a program that would help the sheriff's department better communicate with people of other ethnicities and other languages if upon stops.
We haven't worked with ICE in years. If there's a police officer screaming for help, we're going to go if somebody needs help, but ICE doesn't call us. We haven't worked with them in years. As far as the language barriers, when we brought up to civil service, we actually brought up, going back to civil service again, we actually brought up that people like veterans credits and so on and so forth, would they ever think about giving credits for people that spoke another language? So that would allow them to get some more points on a test, and it would help us with getting people that do speak other languages. We have language line, we have this, we have that, but there's nothing better that, if I've got to send somebody out, and I'm just going to pick Spanish speaking because the guy's sitting across the room from me. But if I can send Lieutenant Rivero out, and it makes them so much calmer. And when COVID hit, we met with a lot of the farms, and a lot of those people didn't speak English, and they spoke Spanish. So we had an entire meeting with many of the big farms to discuss their concerns, and also for us to make sure they were safe. So yeah, it's a big thing, Bill. And there's a couple comments as far as hiring. Could it be better? Yes. But on our site, there's a thing that clearly leads you to different things as far as hiring that they can click on. And again, could we make it better? Yes, we can. And we'll take a look at that on our site.
Testria.
So a few of things Sheriff Bartlett said, we talk about diversity in hiring, and if we're successful with that, then some of the language barriers might also be accomplished, right? So if we have somebody that, is part of the Bangladeshi community, and so if we have diversity amongst the sheriff's office, then that might eliminate some of those issues. I love that you're publicly stating that you don't cooperate with ICE, Sheriff Bartlett. And I think part of building trust in the community and community policing and all of that is maybe just having a real written public statement, so that it's not just like, yeah, we're not going to do that, but really coming out and saying, we're not participating with ICE. We're focusing on crimes that are against the law, and just to make people feel safer in their community might be a good thing.
Okay. We ready to move on to one of our favorites, the complaint process? Sheriff Bartlett, your hand's still up. Is that for this or for that, or? Okay. Test three.
I put my hand down and re-raised it. So on the long-term strategies under number 1, I love the idea of like a civilian review board. In the research that I've done, it shows that there's different models of this, and the only ones that seem to be really successful are ones that actually have oversight power, have subpoena power. So a sheriff can't say, no, I'm not talking to you, or no, I'm not giving you what you need to review this complaint. So I think it's important that we put in there that, we don't want to just go through the motions. We want a successful civilian review panel that includes oversight and subpoena power. Excuse me.
Okay, Ryan?
Thank you, Tristan. It is same thing I was talking about. Thanks.
Okay. Ryan Carty.
Yes. So just a concern that I raised when we addressed this in the group panel was that any sort of civilian review complaint committee just needs to take in mind that it cannot interfere whatsoever with the district attorney's mandate to investigate any and all criminal activity of anyone, including police officers or any other law enforcement officials who are, engaging in any sort of illegal activity or that would warrant a complaint. So that's just something to keep in mind with respect to how and whom would be on this committee and what exact powers they would have and abilities they would have, and that it wouldn't interfere with the district attorney's ability to prosecute any and all crimes that occur here in Columbia County.
So, Ryan, the discussion is ongoing for sure. So this is definitely not written in stone. But when you're looking at the functionality, you would start to look at something, say like the ethics committee, which does not interfere with the DA's work. In fact, they work in kind of unison, right? They take the complaints, and if it warrants, they pass it over to the DA. So I would assume, and I'm only assuming, but that it would be some sort of function in that capacity versus working counterproductive to what you guys do.
Yes, that I would completely agree, and that actually sounds something very similar to the way the raise the age statute has gone into effect here in New York State with respect to individuals who are under the age of 18 who commit crimes and how they're handled, and that there's a process, just an additional process of how it needs to be handled in order for the prosecution to occur. But it might
be transparent. But then also, as Ryan just said, we have criminal cases that we deal with, and we have to be aware of that. And these are things that we do. A lot of the models that we've been looking at and talking to other agencies about, some of the stuff may come in, and it may come into professional standards or their internal affairs. But then if it's criminal, of course, we have to always speak with our district attorney, and because we never want to mess up any type of criminal case, which we've had. So as Bill said, it's ongoing. We've been having good discussions, and at the end of the day, it's ultimately transparency, and that's what we're looking for. But I hope people would also keep in mind that we have internal criminal cases that we've dealt with. We have internal, just regular overall cases as far as discipline, and we have to worry about union issues and so on and so forth. Because there's a lot of different things that we have to come into this puzzle with. It's not just cut and dry.
Anything else here? Good. Okay, let's move to senior checks.
So the senior checks, we started when COVID started. Another, I don't know how much good stuff came out of COVID, but a good thing that came out of COVID, because we actually go out and I felt that there was a need to check on our seniors and say hi. How many people have said, yeah, I've been living in this cave for how long because I can't get out and do anything. Well, it's a little social interaction. So we started this. We do have a few people on. Every day a deputy sheriff goes to their house. How you doing? I've done it myself. And just, you know, being part of the community, saying hi and making sure they're okay. Making sure if they need anything. I know a couple of deputies actually shoveled a few walkways and driveways for a couple people. So that goes along hand in hand with our daily call. In our daily call, we work with the Office for the Aging. And anybody out there that has any questions on this, please let us know. It's on our website. So our daily call basically is every day if somebody just wants to be checked on. And it's an automated call that would be sent out if they don't answer at a particular time that they set. And another automated call goes out. If they don't answer, then a real person calls from the sheriff's office dispatch. And if they still don't answer, then we send a deputy sheriff to the house. So all these are available. All these are, again, working with the community and having the police get out there.
Nice. Okay. Any questions or comments on this one? Okay.
And it's free. One thing in life.
All right. And then the last one, we have what else might we have missed? Right. Is there anything else in this? When you look at all of what we've done, test stream? Yeah.
So again, this is all written down, and I'm not going to read them all because I have quite a few, but a few that I did want to just state. And this came up in a meeting the other day that we were having that I hadn't thought of before, but I used to work in the local courts, and many towns look at the court as a revenue producing department. And courts are for justice. Courts are not for revenues. And so some sort of educational campaign to the local towns and to the local town boards that their court really shouldn't be looked at as revenue producing. Because I think a lot of times that can jam up people in poverty who might be people of color, might not, but it can jam up people in poverty. All of a sudden they lose their license, then they can't get to work. And it just compounds the problem when judges feel pressured to set high fines because the town is depending on them for those revenues. So I think we should include something about that. I talked about, preventing misconduct and taking preventative actions and tracking signs of misconduct. And I'm going to refer people to the letters from Abdus and Megan Reinhart, which are on the PRP website, because they have a lot of detailed suggestions that I think we should incorporate into this document. And then the last one is, I think we need an ongoing PRP group, like an implementation committee that's maybe some elected, some supervisors, some law enforcement, some members of the public, maybe a smaller group. Because once we submit this to New York State on April 1st, we need to ensure that the changes are being implemented. A lot of the things are established system to measure results, and based on findings, refine the strategy, which is really important. Is it working? What do we need to change? And then the long-term goals obviously need an ongoing. So I think we should build that in as well. And then my last thing, and I promise I'll be quiet after this, I did have a few questions, I think, for Chairman Morrell. It might actually be for Mr. Benvenuto and Mr. Hughes. But could you kind of define the process from here on out, the timeline, who's actually drafting the plan, incorporating these changes? When does it go to the panel, the review panel, the final review panel? What's our timeline and what are the steps from here and who's involved in those further steps?
The timeline would be when this group is done with their work, then we would schedule the plan review panel, and that may take a meeting or two, but they're going to review the work. And just, to reiterate, the plan review panel also, it goes back to having approximately half of the members are community members. Again, so they're going to look at it. Once they're okay with it, it's going to go to a public hearing. The public hearing would take place, and then once that happens, it would go to the full Board of Supervisors for a vote on the plan. To go back on your questions in terms of implementation, I think once the plan is adopted by the county, it becomes the mission of the Public Safety Committee to make sure that the pieces are implemented. You know, we are elected, so
Great.
that's
Thank
my view on it.
Thank you very
And
much.
who would be the one drafting it, Mr. Chairman?
I think we will be drafting it, Mr. Hughes. You, myself, the sheriff, Mike Benvenuto, Sherry, you know, the committee that's sort of pulling this together.
So what I was going to say at the closing is that, you know, this is really good work. A lot of people who have participated in this community, in this committee, you certainly should be proud because, you know, your input was invaluable. And I know that this is a lot for people to absorb. So don't feel as though you still don't have an opportunity to submit comments. I would suggest that you do if you had them, so that we can make the document even better than what it is right now.
And that's said, Bill, you guys have come a long ways. I mean, you think about where we were at the beginning of this process and where you are now. There's a lot of information you've put together and with some pretty clear direction. I mean, there's fine tuning here, but there's been a lot done. So give yourself all some kudos for that.
Well, I try to tell everybody this was a process, and it, you know, it seems, you know, you've got to go through the process to get to where you need to go.
Yeah.
So I would say we probably need another meeting, Newell.
Yeah. After we find.
Yeah. So probably within, you know, a week to two, we'll have another meeting scheduled. We'll sit down with Newell and find out what his availability and everybody's availability is, and we'll send out some information.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. So the Board of Supervisors would need to vote on this at the March meeting?
Yeah, it'll probably have to be the March meeting, or unless we call a special meeting. It's kind of easy to throw a meeting together now. So yeah, I mean, so we've got time, but we don't have a lot of time.
No, we don't. It'll be here before we know it. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're ready to call it a meeting.
All right. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
History, don't forget to email me.
I am. I'm
No.
going to send that to you. And
Great.
that was
No.
my other question, Newell and Chairman. So if people have written comments like I do and they send them in, could the next meeting of all of us be like, I put mine in blue, but in a different color, not just mine, but all the other things that came in, and we as a group can kind of say like, yeah, let's put that in, or let's change that this way.
Yes, I'll have this better formatted too. It was kind of askew when I transferred it to the other computer. So I'll definitely make it look a lot better, and then we can do that as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for your hard work. Really great
Thank you,
job
everyone.
outlining to that side group that's been working hard on it.
Thank you.